Hello, listening Griffin. I guess hello anyone who might be watching this video. I found your video really intriguing. I was curious to know what type of psychology do you have a degree in and that you study. Just because some of the issues you raised were ones that I've heard before, and also I think that, not to say, oh, I have the answers to some of them. It's not so much that, but I think that some of the things you talked about with respect to psychology and how can you study it as as a science? How is psychology scientific? I think there are ways to address those. I mean, it's not going to be objective, but then again, I don't really believe in objectivity, just because for me no one has ever adequately explained how it is that we're going to get into a position where we can actually know something objectively. I guess I sort of fall maybe a little bit into Piro's camp as far as how you might never have access to it, but you can behave as if you do. But just on the issue of psychology as a science, I guess you can study it reliably if you think of using, well, think of science as a process, I guess, as opposed to saying this is an objective reality that we're going to tap into. And by a process, I mean methodologies. What methodologies are you using? Now, obviously there's journals and peer review, and that, I guess, in a sense, is sort of consensus, but I think it has to do with measurements, not measurements as in like what you actually use to take the measurement, but precision in your process or in your procedure. So I guess to me, if you have an understanding and replicable set of procedures, and those can be undertaken by anyone, then that is sort of similar in a sense, I guess, to what Piro has said about if you build error in and you recognize there's error and you're looking at yourself as sort of building a better model of what actually goes on. The other really biggie, I would say, for that is reflexivity. I don't know if you might have encountered that. For me, in my own studies, I didn't sort of encounter the concept of reflexivity until studying qualitative methodologies. And part of, as the investigator or the researcher, when you're being reflexive, you are attempting to not factor out your own bias, because obviously you can't do that, but just being extremely aware of that bias, and in some cases explicitly stating it while you're doing your analysis. I was also wondering if you had done any exploration of social psychology at all. Just in terms of some of the things that you were saying about what's the objective experience that, or the subjective experience that occurs across all people, and also about theory and how theory doesn't really explain or adequately explain as people's subjective experiences. Now, personally, I'm really big into social identity theory. I don't know if you've looked at that at all, but and just any intergroup process. Just when you think about human psychology and behavior in terms of groups, I guess it becomes a lot more interesting, I guess, and also possible to look at something in terms of as a collective subjective experience. Particularly with, I think, because this is my pet theory, social identity theory and self-categorization theory. just what you were saying about, I guess, that experience across all people, categorization and the depersonalization that has to occur when people are thinking of themselves in terms of group memberships. That to me sounds like, oh, that might be tapping into a little bit of what you were expressing there. So, I mean, I don't know if you've looked into that at all, but I suggest maybe you might, and if you make another video about it, that would be really cool. I guess just to explain for a moment, self-categorization theory, you know, it has to do with how group behavior becomes possible, or group-based behavior, just in when people start to understand themselves as a member of a category, they actually depersonalize, not depersonalize in terms of like mob behavior, but they sort of go through a process of depersonalizing their own self in such a way that they start to see their self, as interchangeable with other members of that category. And to a certain extent, that could be, I guess, what you were hinting at or discussing as far as what's a subjective experience that, or objective, okay, I'm sorry, I can't remember which one you said, but an experience that people have, just, well, it happens across all people. Now, that's not a specific instance, instead it's a process, and because it's a process, you don't predict exactly what behaviors or cognitions are going to come out of that. Instead, that would be, I guess, the subjective part. So, anyway, yeah, great video. It's great to be able to talk and think about those sorts of issues, just because, I've had a lot of the same kind of problems myself, just as far as, you know, how are we coming up with these so-called universal statements about humanity, but, anyway, yeah, that's it. Thanks.